Now, civil society organizations are calling on Parliament to intervene and stop government from going ahead with the Agyapa deal as they accuse the Finance Ministry of massaging figures on revenues accruing from gold royalties. At a media briefing in Accra, the CSOs insisted they are not backing down on their calls for a suspension of the deal. The 22 CSOs say their recent meeting with the Finance Minister revealed more questions about the deal. We'll hear from them shortly. But for those of you who are lost about this deal, we put together 9 budding questions surrounding the deal. So those are some of the budding questions that the CSO are asking, that a lot of Ghanaians are asking. We'll put them together for you. Dr. Steve Mantel spoke on behalf of the civil society organization, saying they are still not convinced that the deal is good for this country.
Ghana cannot expect the market to give a favorable valuation of the IPO, which the minister himself states will be about 0.6 to 3.2 times the asset value. This indicates that Ghana is just gambling on the market for the determination of the value of an important revenue stream to the state. The interesting thing for citizens to appreciate is that through government's communication, it is evident that it is either not paying attention to the revenue flows in the sector or deliberately undervaluing the assets for unknown reasons. When a direct question was posed to the Deputy Minister of Finance on the amount of royalties received from gold in 2019, he said Ghana received about 650 million cedis, equivalent of $123 million. The truth is that Ghana received 1.06 billion cedis, equivalent to $200 million, from the big companies under the Chamber of Mines alone. Government has data on the other receipts, yes, yet it decided to underreport the numbers.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has insisted that the deal is transparent, as all the processes have been public since 2018. But Director of the African Center for Energy Policy, Ben Boakye, insists the consultations were not adequate. He criticizes Parliament for not doing a good job on the deal.
In terms of the whole arrangement?
I won't avoid that part. I won't avoid that part. You see, there are substantive issues. I think people had, concerns about individuals that were seen to be or were seen to be part of the transaction. You're talking about senior persons in government or people aligned to senior persons in government. So, it was all right for people to raise concerns about how those people, were selected and, became part of the process and leading it. But that shouldn't push us away from the substantive questions about how the resource, has been valued.
But looks like the minister has made that an issue. He makes the point that pained him, and even at the first instance, it made him discount the letter. Just making the point, could the CSOs have been more moderate in how you put out some of these issues, so that then you can all help us focus on the substantive issue, than the things that in this case the finance minister ended up using as a basis to then discount your initial statement?
No, I don't think he should discount the statement. I think he should rather answer the questions about, how some people were selected to be part of the transaction. And I think that's the crux of the matter. Rather than complaining about it, you rather answer it and clarify it. And
they've explained, for example, that ALA got involved through Headhunt case and that they didn't recruit ALA directly. They mentioned a global recruitment firm that ended up recruiting Osafomafo's son, Kofi, to actually serve as consultants, are waiting for him to become chief executive. You find this dissatisfactory in terms of all these explanations?
It's never been satisfactory. I mean, why would you do headhunting for such a massive project? I mean, we know hundreds of people on the stock market. We know a number of Ghanaians with experience, to be part of this process. So it can't be a headhunt, particularly when you have persons who are politically exposed. You need to really be thorough and rigorous about how you select such individuals to actually lead it. And you would have answered the questions, by going through the due process of competition. As we speak, you and I don't even know that process, unless what you have been told that it happened. But these days, recruitments are open, emails are sent around, publicized on websites, for people to actually go and see what actually happened with that process. So there was something wrong there, but we can go beyond that and ask, the critical questions that really border on why we want to do this kind of transaction.
If you will come to the critical questions as you're trying to draw attention to, but will you admit as CSOs that you also slept on the job right from 2008 when the law itself was passed to allow for these transactions, and that if you had done your jobs then, things would have been different today? In the spirit of the demand for accountability, will you, the CSOs, admit that?
We never sleep on the job. We are not government appointees. We are not paid by government. We deliver based on our resources and our capacity, okay? I don't have a rep in Parliament and to be sniffing what law is before Parliament. In good faith and good governance, we have always had interface with government, sharing laws that are being passed. And that's how we come by laws, right? Government ministries will share a draft with you, you work on it, you raise your concerns, you have workshops to discuss that. And that has been the process, okay? So if you don't share it with me and you expect that by magic I should know what is happening in Parliament when I don't have the resources.
It's a public process. The media reported when even the original act was passed in 2018. When it went through second reading, there were media reports to that effect. Still, CSOs didn't see any possible red flag. The media may not have raised those red flags, but at least if you had taking attention of some of those and follow that, we would have seen some of these. You still stand by your position that you did what you're supposed to do, things are just blowing back now, and it's just government that should be blamed, not you.
You are assuming that I'm always listening to radio, I'm always watching TV. That is not it. We are traveling across the country, across the region, across the world, doing similar works. So good governance and transparency requires that you bring people into the process. And they didn't do that. Nobody blames civil society for this. It was poor governance to start with, not to encourage citizens to see the document you want to take through a process, even before it goes to Parliament. You have to share the document. And that's been the process of policy making. We have ample evidence in petroleum laws and mining laws where letters are written to us. We have letters from ministries before. So before a law is even passed, you may have received 3 letters, right? From the ministry, and reviewed. They could send another one before it goes to Parliament. Parliament will also send a letter to you requesting for input. So that's the governance process. Don't leave it to the media. Engage people. And they didn't do that. So you can't use anything else as an excuse to justify why you pass those things under those cover. And we know what happens in Parliament. What happens in Parliament is that when a bill or a law comes before Parliament, the Committee of Parliament is assigned the right or the role to go and interrogate and look at the bill and present a report to plenary. When that report comes to plenary, the rule of Parliament is that it shall not be debated until 48 hours has elapsed. The common sense on that arrangement is to allow my MP, who was not on the committee, to at least get a sense of what the committee has done, peruse it, and raise questions on my behalf. What they do is that when the report gets to the plenary, they suspend the Order 81 and pass it there and then. So you have 275 MPs, 25 goes to sit, under the sponsorship of the executive, right? And then they bring the report. And then nobody else has the power or the opportunity to go and review the report that the committee has done. And we call that good governance. That cannot be good governance.
So what would be the expectation of Parliament in the light of all the issues that have come up? At the level of leadership, Speaker Mike Okoye, who virtually oversaw all of these processes. What's your expectation in the light of all these?
No, I think Parliament has gotten weaker in terms of governance, good governance over the time. And I haven't seen a Parliament that is more secretive than this current one, because you hardly get memos, you can hardly get a letter sent to you. And that is an indictment on how Parliament has functioned in recent times. And I think we need to really look at that and allow the orders of Parliament to work and allow people to participate in good governance. And yeah.
Is there anything they can do about this Agyapa deal itself?
The Agyapa deal is not going anywhere. It's still a government, as we are told, it's still a Ghana government company. We are hoping to sell. We can decide not to sell, right? And that's what we are saying. Decide not to sell now, let's have a conversation on that. And it's everything within the power of Ghana to deliver that. Parliament can call the minister to say that based on the conversation that is ongoing, halt the process, let's have a look at it. And I think it's within the power of the President of Parliament to halt the process at this point.
The final question would be, so the argument that it's out of the woods already, it's actually done with, what can be done is further conversation to improve the current agreement as has been laid out and not to suspend or even revoke its implementation. You think that argument is uncalled for?
No, I think that posturing is the reason why we held this conference. It's even worrying to say that you are going to consult chiefs, you're going to consult trade unions, but you're not going to change your position. Essentially what you're saying is that you're going to educate them about things that the public have a problem with, things that experts have a problem with. So it's not a good posturing to say it's a done deal and therefore we're going ahead. We need to decide as a country whether we want to sell our royalties or we want to keep it as a revenue source.
Mr. Bachi, you